In today's video, we are going to be breaking down one of the best guards outside of the NBA, Ricci Rivero. He is one of the best Eurostep players ever, and of course, today we are going to be breaking down his basketball shooting form. So let's get down and let's check out how he shoots the basketball. Really quickly, if you want to go check out the cards in the top right of the video, you will be able to see a breakdown of his Eurostep as well. But let's get down into his shooting form. Let's really check this out and see how he shoots. He has a very nice dip. His feet are pointed towards the basket. He's pretty well squared up, and of course he makes a ton of shots. Let's really break this down. So he catches that ball and he dips it down to about his waist and thigh height. This is important because for a lot of players, this allows them to be consistent by dipping the ball. It's like a backswing on a golf swing. We can also see that he is looking at the rim, and he's actually looking at the rim. As soon as he catches that ball, right about there, he is looking at that rim. From there, when he dips that ball, we can see that his shoulders are in line with his knees, in line with his toes. This is extremely important if you want to have a nice balanced shot. There's going to be more and more rules coming out very soon when it comes to shooting and of course getting fouls, and they're going to start calling it your cylinder. And of course this would be your cylinder. You have to go straight up and down. If you glide forward, backwards, or sideways and you get contact, they may not call it in 3 or 4 years. They're actually starting to talk about that, so I may get into that in a future video. But we want to look at his feet, and they are pretty well pointing towards the rim. His left foot is slightly off, but that's totally okay. We can also see when he brings that ball up into his set point, he doesn't start bending his elbow until he brings it about head height. This is okay. You want to keep that elbow not bending on the way up, because if you're going up into your shot, you want to have the least amount of movement possible. And when we go back down, we can also see that his heels are off the ground, which allows him to activate his calves, which is essentially the springs on his shot, and then his calves come into effect and get him higher up into his shot. When he goes up into his set point, we can see that he has 90 degrees on his shoulder and just past 90 degrees, not quite 45, on his elbow. This is going to allow him to still have power, but also allows him to have a nice quick release. Now his set point is just above his forehead and on the right side of over top of his right eye. When he goes up into his release, we can see that he has a soft release, which allows for more arc on that ball, but not as much backspin. A hard flick would give him more backspin. However, there's a lot of really good players in the world who shoot with a soft release, Steph Curry being one of those players. We can also see that he does not shoot with a thumb flick because his palm is still facing this way and not facing towards the basket, which is good, but there are still some good shooters who shoot with a thumb flick. Generally, you do not want to shoot with a thumb flick because, of course, that's going to affect the backspin on the ball as well as the arc on the ball as well. Let's not forget that this guy can jump extremely high as well. Even when he's dribbling up into his shot and he goes for a nice set jump shot, he is looking at that rim when he is dipping that ball. And when he does dip that ball, he goes heel toe, which is totally fine, and he does not go heel toe on his left foot. Heel toe is okay if that's your pivot foot or your drop foot. However, on that secondary foot, if you're going up for a jump shot, you generally want to land on your toe, which is fantastic. When he brings that shot up into his set point is roughly just at, if not above his right eye at his forehead, still 90 degrees on that shoulder, just slightly past on that elbow. And we do see that in this shot we have that ball over top, at least in the same plane as the elbow, and that shoulder is in line with that elbow towards the rim. On this shot, he is slightly tilted away, just slightly, maybe 2 or 3 degrees. It's not massive, and that's very important because, of course, you want to tilt your body to a point where you can get your shoulder and your elbow in line with the basket. I like to call this the shooting triangle. I've said this a few times in my videos. Now, A shooting triangle could be like this, a shooting triangle could be like this, but generally speaking, you want to have the ball in the same plane as the elbow, technically in the same plane as your upper arm, technically speaking, and you want that shoulder in line like I just mentioned. We can see that he does tilt his body slightly back, but his right foot is slightly pointed towards the rim, and that left foot is slightly away from the rim. He does bring his knees together as well, which could give him more power because he's using the outside of his quads. But if he was to do some wall sits with a basketball between his knees, that could build up a little bit more muscle on the inside of his knees. He wouldn't necessarily have to bring his knees together, but at the same time, he can dunk like a beast, so I'm not going to be knocking him on that. Now we're going to look at how much rotation he has on that ball. So we're going to be watching that Nike symbol right there. We're going to be watching how many times it goes around, and that's one time right there, and then it's going to spin one more time, and that's about 2 to 2.25 spins. That is totally fine. Now I would try to have a little bit more rotation, but again, shooting well over the minimum 32%. And from the stats that I can see, he shoots 42% from the three-point line in the PBA, which is the Philippine Professional Basketball League. I think he has a fantastic shooting form. Now, to be totally honest with you 100%, I personally feel that he should be in the NBA today. I think he's a fantastic basketball player. You're shooting 42%, easily would be 40% in the NBA because their line's a bit farther back, but easily 40% from 3 in the NBA. Easily one of the best ball handlers outside of the NBA. Great defensive player, also a fantastic Euro step, which is what he's known for. If I was an NBA scout or an NBA team, I would be signing that guy like that. He needs to get into the NBA in my opinion, unless obviously he wants to stay in the PBA, which is totally fine as well. They've got a fantastic league over there. Anyways, this is my review of Ricci Rivero. He is one of my favorite players outside of the NBA, and I absolutely love his Euro step. Make sure to go check that out in the cards, and I'll see you guys in my next video.